Hey, what's up guys, it's Darius, and today we're testing the battery life of the brand new Galaxy S21 lineup, and not just comparing them amongst each other, but I also decided to throw in some of the best devices Samsung currently has to offer: the Note 20 Ultra, the S20 Fan Edition, and the Galaxy Fold 2. As always, they're on the same Wi-Fi network with Bluetooth and location enabled, and I've matched the brightness to around 1000 lux. But let's jump right in with YouTube. Now this is quite an interesting comparison. We got a wide variety of battery capacities: 4000 mAh on the S21, the Z Fold 2, the Note 20 Ultra, and the S20 FE all have a 4500 mAh battery. The S21 Plus has a 4800 mAh battery, and the Ultra a 5000 mAh one. Now apart from that, the most interesting thing about this comparison is the differences in processor. I have the international models, so the new S21 lineup all have the same Exynos 2100 chip, a brand new and apparently much improved 5nm chip. The Note 20 Ultra has the last generation, the Exynos 990, which was notorious for having some flaws. The S20 FE has the Snapdragon 865 because I have the 5G model of the FE. The 4G model also comes with the Exynos 990, and the Fold has the Snapdragon 865 Plus chip. It will be definitely very interesting to see how the processor affects the battery life, and we'll of course also look at performance later on. 1 hour in, the FE and the S21 Plus are in the lead with 94% remaining, closely followed by the Ultra and the regular S21 with 93%, the Note has 92%, and the Fold 91%. Now let's move on to a Zoom call. Now another big difference between these devices are the displays. Now both the S21 and the S21 Plus have a 1080p panel with a variable refresh rate, which dynamically adjusts between 48 all the way up to 120 Hz. The Ultra has a slightly larger panel, it's Quad HD, and its refresh rate is also at 120 Hz, but it can go all the way down to 10 Hz dynamically. The Note 20 Ultra also has a variable refresh rate, which also goes from 120 down to 10 Hz if needed. But the difference with the Note is that it technically also has a Quad HD panel, but the older Exynos chip does not allow it to run at 120 Hz and at Quad HD, so it's running at 1080p only. The S20 FE has a 1080p panel, and it's also running at 120 Hz, but it's not one of the newer variable refresh rate panels. It was switched dynamically in the software itself between 60 and 120 Hz, but the display itself does not do it. Now the Fold obviously has the largest display, and it is also a variable refresh rate 120 Hz panel. After a 1 hour meeting has just concluded, the FE is in the lead with 81% remaining, 79 on the Plus, 78 on the Ultra, 76 on the regular S21, 75 on the Note, and 74 on the Fold. Now let's move on to some web browsing. This is an app that just automatically refreshes a web page. I set it to 20-second intervals. And after an hour of that, the results are fairly consistent. The FE is still in the lead, and the Fold, but now also the Note, are in last place. Now we're gonna record some 4K video. And I was originally going to do this for a whole hour, but weirdly enough, after 25 minutes, the S21 Ultra overheated and just refused to continue recording. So I also had to stop the recording on the others. The FE is still in the lead, but interestingly enough, the Note is in last place now. Now let's move on to some light gaming. Again, the FE is in the lead with 56% remaining, 53 on the S21 Plus, 48 on the Ultra, 47 on the S21, 44 on the Fold, and 42 on the Note. We're 4 hours in, and I do realize that we don't use our phones constantly, non-stop, which is why we're now going to do a standby test. They were in standby for 11 hours now, and the results are quite interesting. Both the FE and the S21 Ultra only lost 3% overnight. The S21 and the S21 Plus lost 4%, the Fold lost 5%, and the Note 6%, which is quite a lot. I'm guessing that's due to the Exynos 990 chip, which does not have great standby time. I was gonna play some Among Us, but it didn't really work because it was too many devices from one network or something like that. So now instead we're gonna go into some benchmarks. And this is gonna be very interesting. Like I said, the new S21s have the Exynos 2100, the Note has the previous generation Exynos 990, the FE has the Snapdragon 865, and the Fold the 865 Plus. Here are the results. They're quite interesting. In last place, but not by much, is the Note. The FE scored slightly higher than that, and the Fold also did a little better than the FE. But you can clearly see the improvement of the newer Exynos 2100 chips. It beat its predecessor by quite a bit, and also beating the better performing previous generation Snapdragon models. Now the regular S21 scored slightly below the Plus and the Ultra, but I'd say it's within margin of error. In terms of graphics, this is very interesting. Here the Snapdragon models actually perform much worse. The Exynos 990 on the Note even beat it by quite a bit, and the newer S21 models have a massive improvement over that even still. In the 3D Mark Wildlife benchmark, it's a little closer between the Exynos 990 and the Snapdragon models, but you can again see the big improvements of the newer Exynos model. The S21 and the Plus scored a little higher than the Ultra. Not sure what that is all about. Maybe the Ultra throttled, or it's just within margin of error, I'm not exactly sure. Now I wanted to try the 4K video recording once again to see if the Ultra would still overheat or if that was just a one-time thing. And weirdly enough, after 27 minutes, it just stopped the recording and said the temperature is too high to use the camera. That is really not a good look, especially because we're recording 4K video on all of them, not anything crazy like 8K or anything. In terms of battery life, it's still fairly consistent, but the Note is really not doing well. The camera seems to drain the battery life a lot. It's now down to only 13%. Now we're going to move on to some Instagram Reels. And there goes the Note. It didn't even make it to 6 hours, which is really not a good result. Now the poor battery life has to be because of the Exynos 990 chip, because it has the same battery capacity as the FE and the Fold, which are still going. The FE is in the lead with 27% remaining, 23% on the Plus. Both the smaller S21 and the Ultra have 15% remaining, and the Fold is down to single digits only with 8%. Now we're going to move on to some more gaming. And there goes the Fold. It lasted 6 hours and 18 minutes, which is, if you think about it, quite an impressive result. Now it has the same battery capacity and the same high refresh rate display as the Note, but a much larger display at 7.6 inches. And it beat the Note by 24 minutes, which must be down to the better performing Snapdragon processor compared to the Exynos on the Note. 25 minutes later, the Ultra died. It lasted 6 hours and 43 minutes. Just a few minutes later, the regular S21 died. It lasted 6 hours and 55 minutes, which is a respectable result, but again, nothing incredible. But the S21 Plus and the S20 FE are still going strong. So let's keep going. We got 15% remaining on the FE and 11% on the S21 Plus. Now we're going to move on to Twitch. They're both now down to single digits only. And there goes the S21 Plus. It did really well, lasting 8 hours and 16 minutes, which is an hour and 21 minutes longer than its smaller brother, the S21. And 12 minutes later, the FE finally died as well. I'm very impressed with the FE. It's the cheapest out of the bunch. It doesn't have the biggest battery, but this shows the Snapdragon is still ahead of the Exynos. You have to consider that this is the last generation Snapdragon model, the 865, not the 888. So here are the final results. In last place, the Note 20 Ultra. It only lasted 5 hours and 54 minutes, which is probably down to the weaker performing Exynos 990 chip. Now the Fold actually impressed me. It lasted 6 hours and 18 minutes. Not an amazing result, but given the massive display, it's very respectable. The Snapdragon models just seem to be more power efficient. In fourth place was the S21 Ultra, which is a good result, especially considering that it was the only one running at Quad HD. But if you'd set it to 1080p in the settings, it would probably come in first place because it has the same internals as the S21 Plus, but even a slightly larger battery. Now in third place was the regular S21. It lasted 6 hours and 55 minutes, a pretty good result, but nothing incredible. In second place, the S21 Plus, which got a whopping 8 hours and 16 minutes, definitely an incredible result. Now it beat its smaller brother by 1 hour and 33 minutes. Yes, it has a bigger battery, but it also has a bigger screen, and I wouldn't have thought that the battery life difference would be this big. Now in first place, actually to my surprise, was the Galaxy S20 FE, which did amazingly. It does not have the biggest battery nor the smallest screen with the lowest resolution, but it made it to an incredible 8 hours and 28 minutes. It really seems to be the best value Samsung phone out there, with, you heard it here first, the best battery life. Make sure you're subscribed and you've hit the notification bell to not miss any of my upcoming videos on the Galaxy S21 lineup, and of course future battery tests. If you're interested in how the S21 compares to the last generation S20 and some other devices like the iPhone 12, click the video on the screen now, and I'll see you guys in the next one.